Championship All-Stars brought to you by World Coffee Events. My name is Stephen Layton. I'm going to be your host today. Just before we start, I just want to notice some of our sponsors here. Navonu Simonelli. We're very kindly joined by Laro, who is part of Navonu Simonelli. Mal Koenig, Ernex, and Pentex Everpure. And also our event partners in Beyond the Bean, Loveramics, and Sprudge.com. And we can wave to Zachary in the crowd as well from Sprudge.com. Also, Cappuccino, Hershey's Cafeteria, and Espresso Supply. So today I'm joined on stage by Pete Licata, current WBC champion.
Hello, yes.
And USBC champion 2011, 2013. And Laro, I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, and there's Italians in the crowd, but I'm going to go for it. Firetti.
Whoa, great! Bravissimo, Steve.
So Laro is very famous around World Barista Championship events as
Thank you.
Is it technical director? I never know your title of Simonelli.
Yeah. I do many stuff in Simonelli. Yeah.
But he makes the machines basically. He designs the technology behind the machines. The daddy of T3.
Yes, that's one of my baby.
Yes, and of course the new Victoria.
The VA 388 is our last product, yes.
Which is the talk of the show.
Yeah, looks like.
Yes. So today, the title of our presentation is Judge Like a Judge.
Yes.
And you're going to give us a walk through the score sheets, and then Pete is going to give us a walk through the score sheets from your perception.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get up on the machine and just go through a few.
Play a little bit, yes.
Go through some technical things and some things like that. He's going to give his perspective as a judge, and I'm going to give my perspective as a competitor with a little bit of judging in the past. And we're going to, go down. I think it'll be really insightful for people who are interested in more about the competition.
I think from all the videos that we're going to make from these talks, this is the one that competing baristas are going to be watching, not for the fun element or to find things, but to really dig into that knowledge. So I think it'll be a well-watched video. So if we can get the score sheets up on the screens here, I think first of all we're going to be looking at the technical score sheets.
I think we're going to do the sensory
Okay.
first. Yeah.
I had two chances and I got it wrong.
50-50, right? Head judge seat. Yeah.
So Laro, you're a technical judge, so you don't get to see this one so much, but I know you have a part of judging is you have to know each other's jobs well.
Absolutely, and I also sensory. Last year I got also a certification as a sensory judge, so now I can do both.
Okay.
Tech and sensory, yes. I started as sensory judge, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. My first judging 8 years ago, I started in Canada for a regional championship, and for a couple of years I've been only sensory because I was very comfortable. You sit down, relax, take drinks and so on. It was so comfortable. I say, I want to be here.
And then the only time I see you is at WBCs, and that's when I saw you technical judging.
Cool.
And I saw you then, I thinking, Laro knows how this machine works. He knows how to be doing this stuff. So,
yes, that's true, Steve.
So let's go through the sheet, starting with espresso evaluation as part one. How important, as a barista, is espresso to you? I mean, this is where a lot of the points are, isn't it?
Espresso is the foundation of all of the drinks that I'm going to be making, and it's the coffee that I'm presenting as a competitor. So it's absolute importance, and I think it reflects it on the scoring too.
And as a sensory judge, I'm guessing that this sets the tone of the performance a lot of time, because espresso is normally the first course in general. I mean, WBC competitors can choose where they put their drinks, but it seems to be more times than often espresso is the first course.
Yeah, espresso for me, as Peter say, is fundamental because in espresso you don't have other ingredients. It's alone. It's just espresso. It's a fresh product. It's what nature have done and what these guys, in all the process, have converted into the cup. So there you really feel, the products, the freshness of the product, and the best you can get in the cup. Yeah.
So when building a performance, Pete, what do you look for in your espresso? What kind of things are in your mind as you're selecting that coffee and starting to build a performance?
When I start looking for a coffee, I'm usually getting green samples and I'm sample roasting and pulling shots. But what I'm really looking for is body and sweetness, more than anything. Now, obviously you need balance, you need acid, and you need bitterness. But through roast profiling and some other things, you can get balancing acid and balancing bitterness out of it. It's harder to get sweetness from the coffee and body.
And this has been a recurring theme during the Espresso Challenge we've been doing here. Competitors on the stations have been saying, I want to get sweetness.
Yeah.
Nobody dislikes sweetness in the espresso. And the balance and all those other things are important, but sweetness is a great place to start. Laro, when you're served an espresso and you're judging and you raise it to your lips, what are you looking for?
Well, we follow the score sheet. The score sheet is really well done. The last we have done, it's fantastic for me. I feel very, very well with the score sheet. So we follow the protocols, okay? So we start with the crema, okay? Then we go through the taste, balance, and the flavor. For me, as judge, it's important. I use my body as a tool, as an equipment, as an instrument. So it's very important to go through the different sections and evaluate the single sections. So everything is done, in the protocol. So we just, do the evaluation protocol. We don't write anything. Everything is in the mind. We use our sense, the 5 sense, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and we try to catch the different section, and then we wrote down. So we match the section with what our barista told us, and we see if the two things match each other. So this is the job that the judge have to do. You have to, split yourself. So the personal behavior, your personal preference goes completely out. They are out of this section, and you have to be a tool.
It's interesting what you said there about that this is an easier form to use, and I think there's constant development with judging, constant development of the score sheets to make them more user-friendly, and what's happened in barista competition over the past 13 years since we started is more consistency in judges.
Exactly.
And that's because of the tools that you have here.
Yeah.
Give you the ability to be more consistent.
Absolutely. We are now worldwide. WBC is over 60 countries. We absolutely need the consistency between the judges all over the world, different languages, different cultures, different habits. This is our guideline, our Bible. More this one is clear, more you can have a consistency between the judges. So that's why we have been, putting a lot of effort, and we're developing continuously the score sheets.
Peter, as a long-term competitor, 2005, your first competition.
Yeah.
How have you felt judging has evolved over that time, and has things like the improvements of these things made it better?
I think that consistency is a huge part of that. There used to be instances where it's just like one judge is off, or there's something like you kind of feel like, well, maybe this one person was like, what were they thinking? I don't know. Or you go from competition to competition, and you get very different interactions with the judges. But also, I think that they've taken out, through the judges' training and through the score sheet, they've taken out a lot of the subjective things, like the clothes that you're wearing, and things that don't really matter as much to the coffee. And those are still reflected in the overall impression of a person, but you don't need to be scoring things that are like that. So I think that the objectivity of what it is and giving a real true evaluation of, is this good or is this not good, is where it's gone to, and it's really great.
So, Lara, moving on to the cappuccino evaluation. What kind of things are you looking for in the cappuccino as a judge? And talk us through the scores that you might give there.
Yeah, practically at the beginning, when you receive the cup, we are using at visual because cappuccino is a visual beverage at the beginning when you receive it. So we are going through this. Then we check the consistency and persistency of the foam, very quick. And then after...
When you say you're looking for the consistency of the foam, and we all see the judges use their spoon and push it back, what are you exactly looking for? What are you looking for that foam to do?
We have two things to evaluate. First of all, we have to check the thickness of the foam. This is extremely important in cappuccino because this one give the amount of foam is a part of the receipt of cappuccino. So if you want to have a nice, taste in your mind, texture in your mouth, you must have at least in the cappuccino 1.5 centimeter of foam because this one gives the space for the liquid, so for the milk and for the espresso. So that's why we need this.
So if you have less foam, you're going to have more milk, which is going to not be a cappuccino.
Yeah, then will be a latte. And then if I go in a coffee shop and I want a latte, just ask for latte, not for cappuccino. Yes.
Okay. So you've checked the foam. What is it you check next?
Then when we do this, just with the spoon, we check the thickness, and on the same time we check the consistency of the foam. So you can see if the foam is dry, for example, if it's not well frothed, you say it's drying, so it's not elastic. So we are looking for to have what we call cream and milky effect, in which the foam and the liquid are just one thing together. So it has to be very elastic, deep, not dry, and shining. That's the thing we are looking for.
Okay. And then moving on to the taste, what are you looking for in the taste of the cappuccino to give the flavor scores?
Yeah. When you go in the mouth, normally we check the temperature, okay, because that's the feeling you get immediately, and the temperature automatically is engaged to the flavor, because if the cappuccino is so hot, automatically the milk will taste bad, will taste cooked, will taste caramelized, and so temperature has to be warm. You have to have this feeling of something, of a liquid that is warming your mouth, not pounding your mouth. And then you are feeling the texture of the cream you have in your mouth, so you must use the right milk, the fresh milk with the right quantity of protein, the right fats, the right oil to give to you the taste of the fresh milk, like the one you have from the cow, really, this feeling of going back to the farmer. This is what I want to feel in my cappuccino. And the espresso, sure. The espresso, if you have a good balance, a good match, the milk is announcing the flavors of your espresso, so everything is reached by the milk base.
Okay, so looking at the scores there, we have flavour, and then we have the functional and correct espresso vessel used. How important is the cup in the whole presentation, and what are you looking for in the cup?
Yep, the cup is definitely important. The size of the cup is extremely important because from the size of the cup you get the receipt. And the shape of the cup is also important because you have to be functional, so I can use this easily. You have to be also, you cannot get hot in the cup, and also it's important the shape, to be easy drinkable.
Do you have anything like from the cappuccino pot that frustrates you, or that you would like to see changed, or developed and evolved?
It's definitely changed considerably since I started. There used to be a lot of evaluation of feel like how like a score for the temperature and a score for these other things. But with the cappuccino, I think it's gone to a point where it's really good because you're looking at you're talking about the consistency of the foam, which is the texture of that foam. Peter Giuliano would say over and over again, it's like that's the thing that matters the most to me. And the depth of that foam, like having enough of it. You have latte art and you have your visual look of it, which I didn't understand until I judged, but it doesn't have anything to do with the difficulty. A lot of people focus too much on doing latte art in their cappuccino and not enough in making just a good tasting cappuccino. And so it's just a symmetrical, centered, balanced, contrast, shiny colors, things like that in your art. And the flavor, one of the biggest feedback points that I've always gotten and most competitors get is they don't taste the coffee in the cappuccino. It tastes too milky. And that's the nature of a milk and coffee drink like that.
Well, I think a lot of the things that people have said about cappuccinos this week is they like 5-ounce cup. They'll go for the smallest cup size, the 150 ml cup, so they can get that coffee flavour pairing through as really important. So we move on to the signature beverage evaluation. What are you looking for here, Laro, on the scores? How are the scores collated here?
Well, the signature beverage is a complex beverage, and is the only beverage in which the barista can show the creativity, because the other beverage are fixed. You cannot, use your personality. But here, they can do whatever they like. They can use any product that they like. Here, it's very important. We are looking for a clear explanation of the method from the beginning to the end. What we are looking for is that me, as judge, after the explanation of the barista, I should be able, just listening one time this explanation, I should be able to repeat exactly the drink. So if it is good in explanation, so you have a nice communication skill and customer skills, you should be able to explain to me in a proper way the preparation. Then we are looking for sure at the creativity. What is new? Why? What is, we are in a world platform, in a world competition. So what is new? What is looking for? The research that the barista has done behind, and the connection of this research, for sure, with coffee, because we are in specialty coffee industry. So in the signature beverage, we are looking at something that is enhancing the best features of the coffee.
So this really plays into what we were talking about with your signature beverage for this year. That you made it simple, you pulled it back, and you put it into a place where it was easy to judge. Are these things that you are obviously keeping in mind while you're building your signature drink to make the judge's life easier?
Well, yes, and what it really boiled down to is intentionality. Why am I using this ingredient, and what does this have to do with the flavor of the coffee? And explaining what it is, where it came from, why I'm using it, and how it's affecting your overall experience. And every ingredient that you're using and every method that you're using to make that drink is part of in your well-explained points. In your creativity and your synergy are both. So creativity is new things and thinking outside of the box. Synergy is working with the flavors of the coffee and bringing a synergistic flavor experience, right? And so I'm kind of trying to keep all those things in mind when I'm using my coffee and taking my espresso and thinking about it, and how I'm going to put ingredients with it, and how I'm going to make a new experience with it.
So moving on, Laro, to the barista evaluation. When it says professionalism, what kind of things are you looking for in that? What does that actually mean to the competitor? What do they need to present to you?
Well, professionalism is everything. Everything. Your body is acting, your voice is talking. Everything the barista is doing when he's playing with the coffee machine, when he's playing with the coffee, with the ingredient, with the tool, everything the barista say to us, the movement, the workflow he has, give me a feedback on his professionalism.
That must be really difficult to judge at a World Barista Championship level, because all of these guys have gone through a process of winning their national competitions. You must put a lot of sixes in that box.
Definitely, yes. Definitely, the level is going higher and higher, and we are happy for this. I love, as a judge, I love to put six everywhere. So I'm frustrating. I feel sad when I have to score down because something is happening, because this is not the way we like. We like all the barista to be perfect, but also, we have to mark what can be improved, because it's the only way we can do something better.
And this is a sign of a good judge, Pete, is when they give you feedback on your score sheets.
Absolutely,
I've seen so many. I've actually been lucky enough to go into lots of feedback where they're going, "You were great, but you gave me a 3." Yeah, what could I do better? Nothing. You were brilliant, but you gave me a 3. It's like, what do I need to do to get a 6? Nothing. You were great.
Right.
Give me a 6.
Well, I think that goes into what I was talking about, the judges' training that's going in now, the classes and the certifications that are happening. And the question is raised sometimes is like, why not a 6?
Yeah.
Like, you need to tell me why this isn't an extraordinary experience if you're going to give me less than a 6,
Particularly on the World Barista Championship
Yeah.
stage, because at national competitions, we know some baristas go in badly prepared, and it's very easy to score them down.
Yeah.
But at World Barista Championship, you've been preparing for 6 months to make 12 drinks.
Yeah.
You have to give a really good reason why it isn't a 6.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Absolutely. And then even like 5.5 versus 6, there should probably be a reason, like even as small as it is, you say like that could be better. And so that it just explains it, but it needs to be said.
Yeah, and then you can go forward and use that feedback to improve and, as you have keep competing. So moving on to the judges' total impression, this is one that I find very interesting. This is your chance to have a personal opinion on this, yeah?
Yes.
And how do you use that? I mean, what would give you, what would make you give, say, Peter a 6 for the impression?
For me, it's clear, Steve. Why we do this? Why we do all this? We do all this to find the best ambassador of coffee in the world. For me, it's very clear. The number there is very clear. We are looking for the best ambassador of coffee, the person that can represent us, all the specialty coffee industry for this time of the year, for this year. So it's it's a mix of feelings you get from the barista, from the way he's acting, from the word they say to us, and from all the beverage experience.
That's quite a big score, that one, isn't it? That's 4 times whatever you give as a final score, so it's a fairly big one. So we've looked at this sensory score sheet. If we can just get our AV crew to move on to the technical score sheet. If we just roll that round, there we go.
Yep.
So this is the one where there are very much yes and no answers, isn't it? This is being
black and white.
Yes.
Very clear.
So, station evaluation, Laro. Tell us what you're looking for there to give those points.
There are two main things we are looking in the station evaluation. One is the cleanness. It is very important in a coffee shop, and the second one is the organization of the place. So when I want, every time I do this score sheet, I fill this score sheet, every time in my mind I'm thinking to a real coffee shop. How it should look a real coffee shop, how it should look a perfect real coffee shop. Clean and organized. This is what we are looking on the first section.
So workflow is super important in this, the workflow
the organization,
of the station.
Yeah, the organization of the station at the beginning, how this barista, they organize the workstation, how you prepare your place, your workstation for the people in the morning when you arrive to your coffee shop. Yeah.
And how much time would you spend before competition working out table layout, making sure you have all the things that you need?
Quite a bit. I mean, and that evolves as you're building a presentation. It's, you're going through a run through and it's like, I have to go all the way over here for this thing. How can I bring this closer to where I need to be at this time? And this is actually something that's in bartending and restaurant like kitchens and things like that. So you make yourself a triangle. And it's just like, I should never have to leave this triangle unless I'm going to this other station. For this particular job. And everything should be within reach and everything should be accessible and purposeful. And that's that point right there is like, is it in its place, is it organized, and does it make sense for what you're going to be doing?
And the one thing I noticed a lot from this year's competition have been on the floor as MC, and that's the time I get to interact with the barista before they go on, is the ones who finished in the semi-finals had an amazing workflow. Because not only does that come on the, which is a fairly small score, but it means that they can do their presentation in 15 minutes and know exactly how to do it and where to do it. So it's vitally important. So espresso evaluation, you're not actually assessing the taste of the espresso, but how they prepare the espresso. So as a technical judge, what are you looking for again at this stage? What are the main factors that you're going to put your scores down for?
In the last year, especially with the new score sheet, now tech judges and the sensory judges are more and more working together. Because when there is something wrong on the sensory score sheet, the sensory judges is not looking at the barista because there have to be no influence. So when you are scoring, you just taste, no influence. But if something is getting wrong, in this case, we have to investigate why, especially when there is a difference between one judge and the other judge. Sometimes the difference are even, quite high, and we have to explain to the barista why this is happening. But the sensory judges don't look at the machine, don't look at the extraction. So in this case, it's very important that the technical judge has recorded all the shots, how they came and what's happening. recording well, all this information, we can track exactly what is happening, and we can justify, we can explain, sorry, not justify, we can explain to the barista why there is this difference in the score.
In fact, when WCE and the judging committee did the new table layout, the judges were put in front of the machine on purpose, so they didn't get to see behind the machine, and the technical judges could be their eyes.
That's their job.
So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
vitally important. So we see some circles here above. What are you looking for in those circles? What would you use those for? Because for somebody who doesn't know the score sheet, they go, why have they got circles and squares? And
well, the circle is very useful because we can mark there if there are some default in the leveling of the coffee. So normally we mark there these things, and on the square blocks there on the right side, we can mark if there is a defect in tamping, of or for example if there is a difference in the amount of coffee. So sometimes maybe you dose the first 2 cups different from the second 2 cups, and so we mark the different level in the baskets. Yeah.
So when the barista finishes his performance and people are watching on the live stream, they see the technical judge go up and pull out the portafilter and look at it, and they'll be looking under the machine. What are they looking for?
Well, we don't pull anymore out the filter holder if there is no special reason. So before it was standard to open up, check inside, see if there were some channeling or something was defective, and for example press the cake to see the expansion. Now we don't do anymore because we give more freedom to the barista. So if the barista want to play, for example, with less coffee, give more expansion to the cake, they can do. It's up to them. As much as this is reflected in taste. So if they can improve the taste level, okay, with a different technique, they have much more freedom than some years ago, in which because now we don't need. Some years ago we needed to educate the baristas. Now the level of the education is up, is much more up. So we can give more freedom to the barista to create, something new. So to give
So now there's a level of expectation that the barista is educated enough to be at that point to not need to check those things.
Still to a certain level, I mean, because there is a foundation that you have to respect. Yeah.
In that regard, as a competitor, back, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we were really restricted by the expectation of the technical judges. Like, the pucks were squishy, And it's like, well, so you'd have to try and fit into what the technical judges were expecting in the basket, in the portafilter, in your end result. And so that would affect your flavor. Like, you can't get a solid puck and get the flavor out of certain coffees. It's just not good. That's not the way that dosing and extracting works.
I think there's also been development in things like colour of crema was a big problem for a while.
Yes.
Not every coffee gives a certain crema. In fact, some coffees give very little crema and very little persistence.
Well, it needs crema, but it doesn't need the color. And that largely comes from the roast.
And it doesn't need the persistence. It isn't necessarily a sign of a great espresso. So those things changing and it's part of the evolution. So in extraction time, we see again technical judges with 2 watches. Is that because they might lose one, or are they doing something particular?
Well, I usually 3.
Okay.
Normally, because sometimes they do multiple shots. This guy, they play with us. So I normally use 3. And what we are doing, we are recording. This is our job. And mainly is to see the consistency. There is a reference in the rules and regulation of extraction time, but it's just a reference guide. They have the freedom to go out of this reference if they found something better, but for us it's very important to record the consistency between the shots.
I remember Gwilym in 2009, his espresso shots were 41 seconds.
Yep.
For both of them. That's what he was looking for. That's where he was aiming for the sweet spot.
Absolutely.
So, and he lost points at that point, right?
Yes.
Because it wasn't in that 20 to 30 second window. But that's when, at that point, you make that decision, and you had to say, like, well, I'm going to lose points, but I'm going to get better points on my espresso.
Exactly, and I think what we have here with the technical score sheet, it's a much lower set of points now than it used to be, and essentially is much more the higher set of points now, as it should be.
Yeah,
and
that's given
me because they are educated now. They know how to play technically, so we give them more power, more value to the sensory stuff. Because at the end, in the coffee shop, we drink this beverage.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to the cappuccino evaluation, but just really focus on the milk. So what things is the technical judge looking for as a barista steams milk on a machine?
Well, we are looking at the milk technique is using, so the way is using the equipment, the cleanness, because milk contains bacteria, so it's very important the hygienic part on the use of the milk. We don't have these issues in coffee because we're using hot water and there are no bacteria there, but for milk it's extremely important. So hygienic section, milk technique, and then the waste of milk, because we don't want to waste these products.
Well, I think this is where it kind of comes into the coffee shop. Like barista competition dives in and out of parts with the coffee shop, but in a coffee shop you don't want to be wasting milk because that's money. And the sign of a good barista who doesn't waste the resources he has. So
it's still a huge problem, and I hope that more people see that in the competition, that the waste is a big issue. Another one that just came up that was kind of funny, people were upset about in the competition, was the cleanliness of the exterior of the pitcher at the end. And people would ask, like it doesn't need to be clean, it's a dirty pitcher, I just used it. But the thing is, if you go to a cafe and they're using the same pitcher over and over, even with a milk rinser, a pitcher rinser, the exterior, you always get that brown crust on the outside of the pitcher, and it drives me insane. And so when I'm training people, I'm always just like, what is the part of that pitcher that is going to touch their drink and that they're going to see? And it's actually a very valid point, and so people are actually, you saw me in WBC, I'm actually wiping the outside of the pitcher because that is an important part in a cafe, actually. Yeah.
So we'll move on to the signature beverage. And what things, Lara, are you looking for at this point? What are the important parts for you as a technical judge for the signature drink?
Well, in the signature drink, they cannot only use the espresso coffee machine, they have to use the espresso coffee machine, the grinder, they have to pull at least one espresso for each signature beverage, but they have also the option to use many other equipment, many other brewing methods. So the judges in this case have to be trained to understand how you should be poured, for example, a Chemex, how should be poured, how should use Hario, how should be using, for example, a siphon. So the technique that is behind, different brewing methods, and see if the barista is following the right rules, the right technique.
What are you looking for when you to keep points as a barista in this signature drink section? What are the key parts that you could pass on to others?
In technical, most of the key points are on the actual signature drink are just the espresso shots that you're pulling. If you're doing extra shots, you're doing 6 shots in your signature drinks, or you're doing whatever, you need to keep that in mind with your consistency and your standard. I mean, just like you do with the espresso. So those points are actually pretty much the exact mirror of the espresso points. But what I am looking for is the next one, which is the technical evaluation on the bottom, and that's station management, clean working area, and just overall workflow. And that, like how I use my ingredients, when I use them, when I'm interacting with them. In WBC this year, I'm making ingredients on the judge's table as I'm presenting to them, and then I'm going back to that ingredient that I just prepared a little bit later on and talking about it, that they've already seen and I've presented, but it's right there. Moving my trays over as I want to bust things away, I want to shift my station. But really it all boils down to, once again, that workflow and that efficiency in what I'm doing.
It comes down to that very beginning again, back to clean working station, everything organised, everything in place. So that's the foundations really of the technical score sheet, would you say?
Here on this technical evaluation, you feel what is a real barista, a real and well and efficient barista. It's a completely different feeling. Sometimes I'm judging some barista, they are stressed, during the routine, during the movement, the workflow, and give to you a stress back. And sometimes when the barista is well organized, he knows the routine, he knows the job you have to do, you feel relaxed. The 15 minutes go on by themselves, and this is the time is expanding. If the barista is well organized, he knows the routine, he knows the workflow, he knows how to move the stuff, the 15 minutes expand. When the barista is not well organized, the barista doesn't know where the stuff is, how to move, when and how to touch, the 15 minutes becomes a rush. And I don't want to go in a coffee shop and look at barista rushing. I want to feel relaxed.
So with the score sheets, I think sensory, it's virtually impossible to get a 100% score on sensory. But actually in technical, if you follow some very basic rules, it's possible to get the 71 if you follow through all of those things, because it is very, you did this or you didn't do this, you did this and you didn't do this. So this is almost the easy points. This is very easy to get these ones here.
When I first started, even 2005, there's all those yes, no, 1 or 0 points.
Yeah.
And that was an expectation for me, from my boss. It was like, you should, and Tim Wendelbo, when he was doing training with us, it's like, every single one of those should be yes. End of story.
Yeah.
Do it.
There's no excuse.
and because it's very clear. This
Yeah.
either you did it or you did not do it. And if you're not practiced and have the repetition of doing it, then you forget. But even from the beginning, I had very solid on those yes, no questions. Like, yep, I did it. And so that was always very strong. And I think that on another point, if you look at, say, WBC, USBC, certain other countries, you look at those top 3 or 6 competitors, almost all those people they've only lost a couple of points on the technical sheet because they're so good. I mean, that's
Which is the way it should be, because if you follow these rules, then there's a big likelihood that it's going to be a tasty drink.
Yeah, and this is truly another foundation of what you're doing on your sensory. If you're doing these things right, then all you have to do is make the adjustments to the flavor of what you want from your coffee and making your presentation.
So, are you going to come and show me some things on the machine?
Yeah, let's go do that.
Let's do.
I don't know if we have a cameraman who's going to follow us around
I think
or not.
he is.
So,
Here we are. Good.
we have our station.
So what are you going to show me first?
Well, the first thing I'm going to...
Workstation, he's lost points here, Lara.
Yes.
A lot of points lost here.
Preparation.
Well, my
Absolutely.
preparation is not good because I'm getting a
This
towel
is
wet
not
now.
the right workstation. You see, this kind of painting we never use for in the real competition because you see the coffee stacks there. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yes. So, let's start off with our espresso, since this is our first point. Now, in barista competition now, we can pull out both of the portafilters and do both of our shots at the same time. In the past, we had to do one portafilter and do the second one while this one's extracting.
This was a change to the rules in 2008.
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic change, by the way.
An absolutely great change, because there was no reason not to do both
Exactly.
portafilters.
Right. Yeah.
The heat loss at this time is minimal. It's not like it's going to change the drink.
Yep. So, now, obviously I made one of our staff members a shot right before we came on stage, so I have a dirty portafilter here. I usually start with clean portafilters. After my preparation time, I pulled shots, I've cleaned up. This is totally empty, totally clean.
Yeah.
Now, if I have one in and one out, maybe that's a little bit of an inconsistency look on my technical judges. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to purge some coffee grinds out of the grinder. We have the retention of some coffee grinds in there, and those are going to be stale because it's been a few minutes since I've used them.
And of course, some people will use a little retainer, a little kind of
container or things. So in this way they can avoid, to get dirty the filter holder, so it's even faster. This is also, it's important to notice because the way the barista is working is also pushing the coffee industry to do better products. If you waste a lot of coffee, there is something wrong. It means that you can improve the products. And so, specialty coffee, barista, this platform is helping all the world to find better coffee and better products.
Well, the evaluation of grinders certainly at this show has been quite huge.
Definitely.
We're seeing baristas push the grinder manufacturers to do more things.
More things.
Absolutely.
I know Simonelli have spent a lot of time working on the new Mythos.
We do.
We've also got Malkernig, our grinder sponsor, who supplying the K30s, doing lots of work. The EK43 in Melbourne being used by Matt
Amazing,
Berger,
exactly.
pushing the boundaries. And I think it's baristas that are pushing the development of machines for the first time, instead of the coffee shop owners or the machine manufacturers even. And that is because of what competition has begun to bring.
Exactly.
So obviously, as soon as I put the portafilter in, I have to start my shots. I've purged water through them.
So during the competition, you wouldn't have access to this screen on
No.
here,
Yes.
where you see the times.
And your shot times, right?
Yes.
And Laro would be there with his clock going click.
Yes, my stopwatches are the timers. Yes, correct.
And so another thing, a real quick note, what I'm doing as my shots are extracting is I'm actually cleaning my station up. This is another point of consistency
Time efficiency,
and
yes.
efficiency, right?
Cool.
Because, and of course, I don't stop and talk and everything while I'm doing it. However, now this is the Michael Phillips method. I'm not very practiced
I
with
want
it.
you to do the Stephen Morrissey method.
Or no, I'll have saucers. Yeah, that'd be great. But so, so always cleaning while something else is happening. Always doing something while, like the person who pulls their shots and like sits there and stares at them.
Do you mind if I share these with the
No, please,
audience?
please,
I'm
please.
sure
Yeah.
I have audience members that would like.
Yeah,
I'm not very
absolutely.
good at the method
Yeah,
at all.
don't. Yeah, there you go.
Would anybody like espresso? Espresso from a
There we
world
go. We'll
champion?
take one over here too.
Let me get you one too. No.
There's the
Good.
last one over there.
Done.
Oh,
Done.
Scott,
Over there.
Gotcha. So another technical point here is that crema, and we still have a persistence of crema score. They have to tilt the cup, look at the crema, and see how it's holding up. So a really important thing is, and one of the beauties of being able to do both portafilters at the same time, is that as soon as those shots finish, you're wanting to take them directly over the table and serve it, so you don't have any degradation of that. And that's one of those things that some people will sit there, they'll do something in the meantime, and it'll it's bubbles and it's separating, and then it's the liquid's going to peak.
It's also the same with the cappuccino, isn't it? We know the cappuccino foam isn't going to stay forever.
Right.
And a cappuccino that starts to bubble, in fact, is so unappealing to the eye.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And we eat and drink with our eyes. So this
Yeah.
whole thing about pouring art at the table and
Yeah.
that innovation helps that too, doesn't it? Your foam looks how it should and it holds up better.
Shining,
Right.
fresh. I always say espresso and cappuccino are fresh products.
Yes.
What does it mean fresh? That you have to prepare on site at the moment. So why don't drink immediately? Why you have to wait? Fresh done. That's the magic of this kind of beverage.
Well, you see, this comes from the Italian part as well. That coffee is an instant thing, isn't it? It is. I don't have time. Give me my coffee. I want to go.
Yeah, that's the name of espresso. Espresso means fast in Italian. It's a fast beverage.
Yeah.
So now one thing I will say is the aging of your coffee is really important for a competitor.
Absolutely.
Because if I have really fresh coffee that got roasted like 4 days ago, it's probably going to be still really bubbly. And even if it's been sealed in a airtight package, it might still be a little bit bubbly when I make a cappuccino. So sometimes, no matter how perfectly I steam my milk, I'm going to end up with some big bubbles in my cappuccino because of the crema if it's too bubbly.
I think also in barista competition there's other things to keep in mind because of, for instance, in Bogota where you competed in 2011, the aging of the espresso changed dramatically.
Yes.
Dramatically, yeah.
So Alejandro, who won that year, he came second to, his coffee was 30 days old.
Right.
Because he would never serve 30-day-old coffee normally,
No,
but the
not in
altitude
Europe.
had
Yes.
made such a big difference.
Completely different gassing, completely different approaches. I want to also add to Pete that also in WBC the trends are evolving, are changing. I still remember a few years ago, 6-7 years ago, in US, when they roasted coffee, they put the date and the time of the day, the hours the coffee was roasted. Like 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was delivered at 4 o'clock p.m. to show how fresh was the product. Now we understood that we can do something better.
And so now,
no bubbling. See
Yeah.
how the surface here is stable. You have no bubbling because the coffee has been rested for a while. So
So if I get a spoon, spoon.
perfect.
Amy,
Great cappuccino.
so
Cool.
if you can show me what you're looking for here with
Absolutely. First of all, very fast very fast, we just look at visual. So visual, we look at, full cup. Otherwise, if the cup is underpoured, you have underscore in visually because we want a full plain cup. If I do like this, I have to be, wet here. Okay. Then we are looking for the contrast. Well, we must have 1 centimeter of rim of brown color around the cup. This is extremely important for the taste, because when you go to drink, you want to find coffee in your mouth. Then we have the symmetry according to the angle here. Okay, so and then we have the symmetry in the cup.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the contrast between the design. We don't look for a special design, but what is be done have to be good.
Yeah.
Then we go with the spoon very fast. We enter inside and we push. See, this one, for example, is a latte.
Yeah.
Very clearly, you can see it's a latte because you see the thickness of the foam is just a few millimeters.
Yeah.
Okay, and what you're looking for in cappuccino is a thick, deep foam, cream. Going here, you see, this is a much deeper than this one. Still on the edge.
Yes.
Still on the edge. Okay. Then we move the cup. We turn the cup around. Turn the cup around, okay, because this one has been destroyed by the spoon, and we have 2 sips. 1, 2 full sips. 1 and 2 in 2 different positions. All these have to be done fast because it's a fresh product.
Yeah.
2 full sips, and then feel, the body of the beverage inside, the sweetness of the milk, the the texture of the foam you have inside together with the milk. And then you go, on the balance between the sweetness of the milk, the body of the coffee, the bitterness, and then we go on flavor. So which kind of flavor we perceive in the mouth. And we write down what we feel, and then we compare from the expectation we got from Pete, from our barista.
Yes. Now I will say, and one of the things that I've discovered over the years competing,
Anybody like to try a cappuccino?
and I think a lot of people realize this now,
Please.
is that all of your foam comes out at the beginning. So a lot of times your first cappuccino is the cappuccino, and your second cappuccino is going to be the latte if you don't have enough foam. So that first one I didn't texture quite as much.
And this is the thing, texturing is something that comes with experience, time, and even if you're the most experienced world barista, champion barista, every now and again the foam will just catch it. It'll just kind of and it's a tricky thing to get right.
Why? It's a challenge. It's tricky. Every time, please.
Add to
Do
that.
it.
Oh, latte time, right?
But add to that the pressure of being on stage, somebody judging you. The audience. I've seen some of the calmest baristas up there, shaking away, and it's just like, Gwilym was up here on the Cappuccino Challenge the other day, and I've never seen somebody shake so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That must be really difficult as a judge because you know these people, you want them to do well, and they're like, how do you disconnect yourself from the person, and being a good judge? How do you do that?
We know that these people are under pressure. That's normal. It's human. So for me, when I see a barista that is shaking, I'm perfectly comfortable because I understand that you have camera, video, microphone, 2,000 people watching him, the barista, the judge pressing him. So that's perfectly human, and he's a human person. It's not a robot. It's not a coffee machine. So I like to feel a heart behind the person. So for me, that's perfectly acceptable, and we definitely have no problem at all. As much as he can be able to pour a perfect beverage.
And of course, a good friend tells the truth. So when something goes wrong, that good judge says, I really love you, but that wasn't right, and this wasn't right. This is how you can improve, because that's what competition is ultimately about.
I know some barista, some friends barista that are fantastic barista, but they cannot resist the push, the stress of the competitions. So what we are looking here again is the ambassador of coffee. So perfect barista, but also the perfect ambassador.
Yes. And so before we go, because I got to run.
Yes. Well, we have to wrap up too.
Yeah, I got about 10 minutes before I got to be on the bus. So, but if we want to look at the technical, and can you come over here? Yeah. So the amount of coffee that's wasted in our dosing. Now, I haven't cleaned any of this stuff up. I haven't wiped anything yet. There's 2 cappuccinos. This is my dosing side. This actually right here came from the chute. Coffee just being stuck in there. So when we look at our technical side, we've got that much coffee. That's our waste, right? And that's what we should be striving for. That's what we should be aiming for, is to literally be able to wipe it on our apron or wipe it, just like in our knockbox and say.
When you have amazing coffee, you don't want to be wasting it on the side.
Absolutely, no.
No,
That's much more money, just like
Yeah.
wasting milk.
Yeah.
So
Same. Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both very much. It's
Pleasure.
been really interesting for me, as I've never judged, and having the insight of a judge here is amazing. So please, a round of applause for Laro and Pete.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
So that's it. We've made it to the end.
Pete.
This
Good
is
job.
the World Barista Championship
Lattes.
All-Stars, the premier event.
Sample.
It's been an amazing experience. Thank you
tastes
so
good.
much for
Tastes
the
good.
audience, for the viewers on the live stream. And yeah, see you next time.